Well, good morning. Welcome to round 2 of Mini Egg and Night. I hope you all had a good first session. I know my first one was probably information overload, but at least we recorded it and we're all getting out in the schools to work with teachers. We got this. We're going to keep going. So this session, you're going to be with Sarah McClure and Rachel Moyer. We are secondary technology coordinators. This session is geared towards secondary teachers. If you are related art from elementary, you're in a good spot because we have section linking. So we're going to start rolling up those course pages today. So let's go ahead and dive in and get started. All right, so we have gradebook configuration and section linking. I am going to share the slide deck so you have it, whether it's to offer PL in your building or even just for yourself. It is full of really good information. So this session, I'm not just going to be regurgitating stuff at you. We're going to have some time to work and really start working on your pages together. So it's going to be a little bit of me talking, and then it's going to be time for work. I would say this is not for elementary teacher classrooms unless you teach like art, music, gym. But if you are just like a kindergarten, first grade teacher, you don't need this course. You don't need this one. You can do a totally different session. No problem. But you definitely want to come back for assignments later. You're not going to hurt my feelings if you jump off because I don't want to have you sitting here. Okay, let's get going. So why should I section link my courses? The reason for this is, let's say you teach the same section multiple times a day. If it's at the elementary level, that means you're a gym teacher and you have 3 kindergarten classes. You could take all 3 of those kindergarten classes, because right now they're in 3 separate courses, and you could combine them to one. Then it would also mean for like secondary, if I teach Spanish 101 4 times a day, I could take those 4 classes and push them into one page. So that gives me the ability to work on one type of class, but 4 rosters at the same time. So in order to be able to take those different sections and link them, they have to have that same course ID. And I'll show you where to find that course ID. Then down here, I do have typed directions, because I know not everyone likes to use the visual of the slide deck. A lot of people like to use the typed directions, just print it out and kind of check mark my way through it. So we have, provided those with some pictures. It depends on SPED. So like elementary SPED, you do not have students rostered to you. But for elementary SPED, we have, I think it's next week. If you look at our July PL, we have a PL just for SPED teachers. Same with ELL teachers. Now, ELL teachers, sorry. The imaginary students are going to class now. So ELL, I know at secondary, you're based on your class periods. So working with a couple teachers there, they can do the section linking as well. So that's a good one for ELL, but SPED at the elementary, they are not assigned to you. And that's secondary. Sometimes I think you're just a co-teacher. But ELL and SPED, we have individual PLs, if you look at our July PL calendar, just for those pockets of groups. Okay, so there is the typed directions. So what can be linked? I just saw her get in here and she's going to recognize these classes real quick. I used Reba as my Vanna White in her courses. So if you look here, this is Biology 1 at Northrop, and here is her course ID number. And because of this course ID number, each of these sections have that same course ID number. So it's listed with the course name, course ID, and then they put a section right underneath that course ID. So this tells me all of these classes I have, this is the same content, it's just different rostered kids. So this is one of those, I could roll all of those sections up into one page. So instead of having 6 pages to maintain, I could go to 1. So here's a PE one. So here's a first grade. And if you look, here's his course ID number. And then these 3 sections have that course ID. So this teacher could go from 3 pages to 1 page. Here is where you can't. So here is elementary ELL. So if you look here, you can see the name. This is first grade. Here's its course ID, and there's only 1 section. So all those kids will be rostered there. So if they can't be linked together, they'll be separated like this. Okay, so any questions over that and how to see that difference? Because now I'm going to go ahead and go out to Schoology. So it's hard here to do the section linking. So you actually have to hit courses. Oh, I muted myself, sorry. Okay, so I'm gonna hit courses. See, there we go. And I'm gonna hit my courses. So this is where you need to be to do the section linking. So I have already pre-enrolled in some different courses to show you. So if it has a course ID, if it's something the district created, it comes from PowerSchool SIS, you're gonna see this course ID, you're gonna see the name that appears in your gradebook, and then you're gonna see your different periods, okay? So like here's biology, and then here's her course ID and all of these sections. So this tells me I can go from 6 pages to 1. But if I look here, here's 2 pages that have the same course ID. So this tells me these courses can be rolled up into 1. Let me switch. So I'm going to go to archived. Archived is your old courses that are no longer active, maybe like last quarter, last semester. So in here I have some. So like here's a digital citizenship. Here is the course ID, and there's only 1 section there. So this tells me I'm going to have a page. But if I look at this ELL teacher, so she's going to have a first grade page, second grade page, third grade, fifth grade, kindergarten. So she's going to have 5 pages to maintain. She can't condense those at all. Where this PE teacher, he can condense his. Okay, so it's all based on your course ID number. Yes, it is possible they're not here. On our end, they are all synced, ready to go for this upcoming school year. If you don't see them, it's because your building is still working on those rosters and they haven't turned it on yet. So if you want, you can probably do what I'm doing. I'm in archived in my courses, and then I can see all my old courses here. So that might be an option. So I'm going to use Reba as my guinea pig again. I hope you don't mind, Reba. So I am ready to do my section linking. So I'm going to go from 6 pages to 1. So all I have to do is pick one of these gears. And notice it says link existing section. I just needed to pick it for 1 because then it's going to show me all the different sections and courses I can link into 1 page. So I am going to go ahead and link all of these together. So I'm going to check mark all of them. Okay, and it's starting to create this list of all those sections together. So this is part 1, select all. I'm going to hit next. So at step 2, it's going to make you download your grades. I'm assuming most of us are going to be doing this before we input any grades, but on the off chance you've been grading and now you decide to link your sections, it's going to make you download your grades because grades disappear when you condense them. So it's always a good thought to do all of the linking before you do any creation in your courses. So I'm just going to choose standard CSV. It's going to download a file. File is going to be blank. Okay, so that was step 2. Now I'm on step 3, where I just confirm that I want all of these linked together. My internet's really slow, so hold on. There we go. So now if you look, it went from that list of 6 sections to now they are listed by commas. So this is what it looks like when you link them together from this end. All right. So I'm going to give you a couple minutes to try to play around with that if you have it there, or to ask questions before I go on to the next part, where I kind of start showing you what this means now that you have them linked together. So I'm here to answer questions. I'll give you about 3 minutes. Yes, PD is classroom screen. I just put on an individual background and music, and it has a timer built in. It's great for the classroom for your time management. Okay. Jim, I'm trying to get that link. My internet is really slow in this spot. I think I'm going to have to move at some point today. Correct. You cannot link sections with different course IDs. So what that means is when you're in here, you can kind of tell. So like so here's this ELL developing level 2-3. Here's their section number, their ID, and then they show you that these have the same one. You can tell by the way they're listed. So like this, like you can see they're pretty much the same thing. They just have the different grades, but they're separated this way. If they're separated like that, you cannot add them together. Correct. So that is a problem with that regular math and enrichment math. If they have different course IDs, you're going to have that separation. But I know sometimes those kids are blended together. So that would be where you could build in one of the courses and just shoot it to the other course. And then I had someone ask me about, I switched schools. Now it's hard for you to change the information of your course, like the time period you have it open. So if you want to email me at rachel.moyer@fwcs, I can dive into your pages. I do have the power to start changing the information in your course setup. So please feel free to email me and I can work with you to get your pages set up, because we do have quite a few teachers that have been moving. So not a problem. Okay, so if you linked your section, let me go back a step here. There we go. So here is my section I linked. They're now listed in commas. So I'm going to go into this course and kind of show you what this means to me now as a teacher. So the first thing I'm going to show you, I'm getting in, there we go. So the first thing I'm going to show you is my, I can show you my members. So if I go to my members tab, up here is going to tell me, here is my period 1, section 1, and then here are all of my students that are enrolled in that course, okay? So I can switch between my different sections to see my different rosters of students. So one really nice thing I can do here is, so this is my first period and I'm going to be doing some station rotation. I can organize my members into grading groups. So I can create group 1, and then I just literally select the kids I want and then create that grading group. So what I did was add grading group 2, and I'm just randomly clicking. So I'm sure you're not going to be doing randomly clicking like me. You're probably going to be very strategic looking at your data. So if you look over here, here are my groups, but notice over here in my roster, it shows me where I put my students, okay? And I know our groups are very fluid, so you can change this at any time. So I can hit the gear, edit, and so I want to remove her, but now I want to add these two. It's that easy to change my kids. Now, the nice thing too is sometimes you might have different grades and groupings. Students can be in multiple groups. Okay, and so the purpose of doing this is so I can actually start assigning work to those individual groups of students versus just my class periods. Okay, so that's something you can do in members. Let's look at Gradebook real quick. So in my Gradebook, if you notice here, I have this drop down. So this enables me to switch between my different gradebooks. And if you notice, it doesn't have that clunky upload that Power School Learning did when you were trying to switch between your different groups. So I think of this as a positive of how quick I can switch between my different grading books. And then also we're going to dive into material so I can see the different things I can do here because I have my different sections linked. So when I add material, so let's do an assignment. You're going to notice when you're adding different material that now you're going to see the availability for what you're adding. So the different stuff you're adding from add material is always going to give you this option that you can do all sections. Or let's say you have some sections that are working a little behind. So if I want all sections to see it, but maybe half my groups are doing it Monday, half my groups are doing it Tuesday, I can set the actual date I want that to appear. So I want half of them to do July 27th. And then I want to do the other ones the 28th. So this is a really nice feature that we have here. And then I can just start unclicking them to say, no, I'm wrong. I don't want them to have this. So you can constantly change this, okay? The other one I want to show you is we had done those groupings of students. So that's where these 3 dots and options come in. And then it's going to give me assign 2. And if you notice, I had called group 1. And if you notice, I'm going to have multiple group 1s because I had 6 sections. So here's group 1, but it's going to tell me group 1, period 1. So it still gives me that differentiation from my different groups I created. So I could have up to 6 group 1s. It's just one's period 1, one's period 2. So I can easily start to do all of that individual assigning. All right, so that was section linking and how you rolled up your courses. You'll have to do it for multiple, and then that's just the kind of different ways and how that works in your page now. Do you have any other questions on section linking before we get to the big show, which is Gradebook? Because you have to connect your Gradebook yourself.
I have a quick question. How do we go about rolling those sections that are linked into our sandbox?
So these cannot go to your sandbox. Your sandbox has to come to these.
Okay, so how does that work then?
So what that would mean is, so if you have your sandbox, so let's say this was my sandbox.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to take over my class information. I'm just going to hit this gear, copy to courses. And I'm going to choose, I want it to go to period 1. I want it to go to all these.
Okay.
Then I'll hit copy. Copy. It's always that double step. You have to either do 2 imports or 2 copies. It's really interesting that way.
Okay.
I'm going to refresh on your course. And there it is. And it shows that it went to all 6 sections.
Okay.
But let's say I didn't want to go to all 6 sections. I can edit. And now I can do that individual assigning, or I can take it away from a section.
Okay.
So even though the sections are linked, we still have to copy them to each one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we bring our sandbox over to our courses, not courses to the sandbox.
Yeah, but if you had just done the one and had 1 section and you are like, oh man, I really needed to do all 6, I could easily come in here and hit edit and then add those other 5.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, it's that setup at first. We're going to have a little bit of time. And then once we get all this minimum set up, I think it's going to get better. All right. Are you ready for Gradebook? Everyone take a deep breath and let it out. Let's do Gradebook. All right. I know some of you have dropped in a little late, so I'm going to put this back in the chat so everyone can have it. This is a great tool to have. All right, Gradebook. At the beginning of every course you teach, so like if you're 6th grade math, it's once a year. If it's like a related arts, I know some schools, your related arts are once a semester because you do that AB schedule. Other ones, it's every quarter, okay? Whenever you start a new course, okay, you have to make this connection. You have to connect Schoology to Power Teacher Pro. You have to physically do that to make your assignment sync. It's not on our end anymore. It's on your end, okay? So we did create those typed directions. They are linked in the slide deck. Okay, they have pictures, and if you want to, you can just start checking your way off through here. It seems intimidating that you have to do this for every course you teach, but once you see it, it's actually really easy, and I'm super excited to show you. So the first thing you have to do is set up your grading categories. So if you've attended any PLs on assignments or 102, we might have talked about when you create assignments, you have to select a grading category. You have to create your grading categories. So let me show you what that is. So in each course, so I'm going to tell you, if it's one you want to link, always do the linking first. Okay. I would always do the linking first. So I've already done my linking for this one. I am going to go on the left side to grade setup. Okay, so in my grade setup, the first thing you're going to see is categories. I don't think you're going to have anything there. This is from me playing and creating them. So you need to start thinking about, how do I want to categorize? I know in high school, some of you just do summative and formative, which is completely fine because you're still going to have that summative and formative in Power Teacher Pro. Okay, so in high school, remember you go summative, formative. So you have to think about, what do I want for summative categories? What do I want for formative categories? Middle school, I think you have 4 categories. If I remember right, I think you have 4. I'm gonna have to look. Now it's gonna drive me nuts. Good thing I have a middle school course. Here we go. I'm gonna do this one. So this is one we've already linked in middle school. She's already linked her sections. So I'm gonna come down here and look real quick to show you what middle school looks like. We'll get to this point next, but first I want to make sure I have it. Here we go. So high school has summative and formative. Middle school has classwork, project, quiz, test. Okay. So think about those categories when you're creating them in Schoology. So the first thing you have to do is create here. So all you have to do is hit add, and it kind of gives you examples. So like maybe you want points, and then I'm just going to hit create, and there it is. So I've already kind of created my own here. Okay, so I'm going to give you about a minute to kind of sit here and think about what categories you want. This can all be deleted later if you need it, because this is just kind of plain. We can fix it later. So I'm going to give you a minute. I'll just sit here and let you try to add your categories, but you need to have, high school, you need at least 2 categories to do that. Summative, formative. Middle school, you're going to at least need 4. So if you want, you can just create classwork, project, quiz, test, but maybe you want homework, maybe you want projects. Well, I guess project is here. I don't know how you do your different categories, so I'll give you a minute to sit here and try to brainstorm some different categories to try to connect. Are you talking about when you add, we need to do points. Schoology recognizes points, and then it transfers over to Power Teacher Pro as a percentage.
So Rachel, for high school, then you would say 80-20? Like 80 on the summative and 20 on the formative?
Yeah, where are you adding points? In here?
When I hit right there, it says formative would be total points.
Yes.
So I would put 20 there. And then on my summative, I'd put 80.
But it's
No, you
not
just
points,
select
it's
the whole thing.
percent.
Okay. I see Mr. Wist down there shaking his head now.
Yeah, because it wouldn't, yeah, it wouldn't be points, it would be percent.
Yeah, but it's 80-20, right? I'm
Which-
missing something here.
When it connects over to Power Teacher Pro, it does the 80-20 for you, because that's
Okay,
what we're
do
going to
that
be
for
doing.
us. Okay.
Yeah, so here you're just creating the different categories. So when you create like a,
So don't
writing
worry about the
assignment.
points
yeah,
right now.
just, yeah. Last
Okay.
year, did you do points or percent in Power School Learning? I think you did points, didn't you?
We did We did points, but the
Yeah.
80-20 was a percent overall.
But what we
Correct.
entered was points.
Right, what we
Correct.
entered were points, right?
So I would keep it points here.
So just don't say any, should we just leave that point thing blank for now?
Just select total points when you create them. Yeah. Yeah. And if you notice, if this is a high school course and I have more than one category or two categories, you can link multiple categories to Power Teacher Pro, and I'll show you that here. So if you look, I have more than two categories because if you remember in high school, I'm only linking to formative and summative.
Right,
Clearly have more than formative and summative, and I'll show you how you can connect these. So before we move on from this screen, if you scroll down, you're going to see visibility settings. We need to check mark these first two to hide the overall grade in their grade report, and then to hide the grading period grade. The reason for this is we don't want the students to rely on Schoology for their grades. We want them to go to Power Teacher Pro because we're going to be inputting grades that aren't from Power or aren't from Schoology, right? Their actual grade is going to be in Power Teacher Pro. So we want to hide this. So once you're happy with your categories, you can always come back and add more. If once you've selected these two, then you're going to hit Save Changes. And now you're ready for the next step. Okay, everyone good right here? Okay, so once we've done grade setup, I don't know what I do. There we go. Once we've done grade setup, we're going to come down here and hit Power School. If this is your first time, it might ask you to hit approve or deny. Just hit approve, and then it's going to bring you to this screen. It does take a second to load. I don't know why it's so slow at loading. So once you get in, you're going to see this screen called Sync Grades. This will show you all of the different Schoology assignments you have synced to Power Teacher Pro. They will be listed here. It will give you the last time you synced it to Gradebook, and then it'll tell you the status, the action. It has the option for you to sync your grades. Why am I seeing the button to sync my grades? Do you know why? I know some of you have had to have done research. Your grades do not automatically sync when you input them into Schoology. Remember last year we would start typing in our points for the different assignments, and then eventually they would start syncing over to Power Teacher Pro in the Gradebook. It was just seamless. You would give a student a 20 out of 20, and then over in Power Teacher Pro, it would show up as a 20 out of 20. Not anymore. You have to tell it to go over. So you could sit here and do an entire assignment's grading. None of those grades will go over to Power Teacher Pro until you hit sync. Okay, you have to tell it to sync. This is one way to tell it to sync. Okay, but this is a great spot to check the status of your assignments to see how they're syncing over to Power Teacher Pro. All right, so remember this screen here. But what we need is configuration. So we're going to hit this configuration to toggle over. So this is where we're going to take those categories we set up. So if you look, this is high school. I'm going to be linking to formative or summative. Okay, if you're elementary, you're going to be seeing these, but this process is going to be the same. So if I hit this drop down, I see all these categories I created in Schoology, and I need to decide what is going to be formative. So classwork would probably be formative. Okay, then you're going to hit add. So you get this next drop down because I have multiple. Then I have formative. So let me see what I can connect to my summative. I obviously have my summative. Maybe I have my projects. And if you remember, I have one more, so I'm going to add another to my formative. I'm going to connect my homework. Okay, so you see how I have multiple categories connected to my 80-20. Okay, so you do have this option in high school to do it this way. Middle school, you'll at least need to find a category to connect to each one. So whether it's classwork, project to project, quiz to quiz, test to test. But if you had homework, you could easily connect it to maybe classwork or something like that, okay? So I'll give you a minute to kind of play with these and kind of connect them. You cannot duplicate. So I cannot have classwork in both formative and summative. It only can be connected to one category. Jim, are you doing it in a sandbox? You can only do it in Power School SIS courses.
Yeah, I just realized that because I can't load, my courses aren't loaded yet.
Yeah.
So
if
I
you
am
use it-
in one that I created. After I hit send, I figured that was the issue.
Yeah, that was me in my training trying to do it. And they're like, no, 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 you have to use a real course that's
Yeah,
connected
sorry.
to Power Teacher Pro. Hopefully yours turn on soon. I mean, we're getting close to school. Okay, so while you're finishing up connecting these, one thing you're gonna wanna click is this automatically shorten assignment titles. The reason for this is Power Teacher Pro only accepts a 50 characters. So if your title is over 50 characters and you try to sync it to Power Teacher Pro from Schoology, it will error and it won't sync. Okay, so this is one way to fix the error is by checking this. And once you're happy, you just hit Save Changes. And you have now connected Schoology to Power Teacher Pro. Okay, so remember, first step was if you're going to link your sections, link your sections. Part 2 was grade setup. Part 3 is connecting here. Now, one more part to this. You have to do this for every course you teach. So this is Reba's course. And remember, we linked all of her 6 sections together. I have only linked section 1. I have to drop down and do section 2. Okay, so you either have to go to every Schoology page to do this, or if you're like her and you've already linked your sections, which is why I said do it first, she has to come in here and then link all these other sections as well. So she has to repeat this process for each one. So this is only a one-time thing at the beginning of the semester or quarter or school year, however you teach your courses, however they're set up. Okay, I think in high school you're each semester for sure. Okay, I know I have a couple middle school teachers that are every quarter. Okay, so this is just that front end setup. Take the time, do it. It's not going to be as long as this PL because you can do it a little quicker. And then just save changes. And then just keep doing it for all your sections, okay? So what does this mean? So I'm going to come back here to Gradebook. So when I create an assignment, I can send it to Power Teacher Pro. Now we ran into the issue last year when you created an assignment, it automatically checked sync to SIS, and then we were sending a ton of assignments to SIS that we didn't want. We're still going to have that in here. So let me switch my PL courses to show you what I mean. Okay. So let's say I want to add an assignment. Now that we have connected Power Teacher Pro, you're going to see the sync to SIS. We can uncheck it, okay? But let's say you didn't uncheck it. You can come back and uncheck it. You can edit this assignment, uncheck it. We did not have that ability in Power School Learning. If you remember, once we created that assignment, it was there forever unless we deleted it. So we do now have the ability to come back in here and just toggle this on and off, okay? But if it has already synced to Power Teacher Pro and you don't want it, you have to unsync it here and then go out to Power Teacher Pro and delete it from there. Okay, same process as last year. It's just you don't have to delete it from in here. So let me get into a gradebook for a course with some assignments. Okay, so here's one of my courses. So I have my different tables. So if I had synced this to Power Teacher Pro, it's going to create this table in my different sections. It's going to have the Google slide. It's worth 4 points. Okay, it's going to sync that automatically. But as I come in here to grade, these grades will not sync to Power Teacher Pro. I have to come up here and sync my changes to PowerSchool. Okay, anytime I input grades, I mean, if you want to do it once a week, you want to do it each time you grade, it's up to you. You just have to make sure you hit sync so it sends these. Okay. Here is the downfall. A lot of us last year, we would sync to Power Teacher Pro and we would start, I'm sure a lot of us did it, we would start grading these assignments in Power Teacher Pro. Remember that? You can't do that anymore. If an assignment is coming from Schoology, all grading has to be in Schoology, because when you hit the sync, it's going to put in whatever grades are here. So if you graded an entire assignment that was synced from Schoology and Power Teacher Pro, and you sync your Schoology, it's going to override everything you did in Power Teacher Pro. Okay. Yes. So they were telling us in our PO that I could create this grading category. So here's this grading category, create this grading category, sync it to Power Teacher Pro. But then I want to get all my grading done in Schoology before I hit sync. Yes, you can do that. Students might have to wait a little bit longer, but that is their option. The sync is up to you on how often you want those grades to go to Power Teacher Pro. So if you don't hit sync but once a quarter, your students are going to be all over you about where are my grades, okay? Because we know how they work. Okay, but the biggest thing that's going to change this year is I was guilty of it too. I would get frustrated and didn't want to grade in PowerSchool Learning, so I would just go to the Gradebook and start typing in my grades. You can't do that. You have to do all synced assignment grading inside Schoology and sync it. That is going to be the biggest change for us this year. So best practice would be, unless you know for sure you want that assignment in Power Teacher Pro, I would unclick sync to SIS. Okay, you can come back later and sync it. So let's say I'm at the end of the quarter and I'm like, man, I got all these assignments that I have a ton of grades for. I want to move them on over to Gradebook. So I'm going to be in my Gradebook in Schoology. So if I come over here and hit, Eric Weber likes to call this the ice cream cone. I like to call it the hamburger, whatever you want to call it. You select the 3 little dots. I love this feature, bulk edit. Okay, so you're going to come to bulk edit. This is going to show me every assignment I have created in this course. I can change their titles if I need to. I can change their grading categories. I can change their max points. I can change their weight. If I have a rubric, I can add it or take it away. I can change my due dates here. But here's the great part. I decided I need to send 3 assignments over to Power Teacher Pro. I can select them here and now they're going to sync. Or let's say, oh, I didn't mean to sync this one. I can uncheck it. So this is a great way to do some bulk editing of your assignments. And then just hit Save Changes. And that's a quick way to edit your assignments instead of having to go into each individual assignment. All right, so we have about 5 minutes left. I'm going to open the floor for you to have me show you anything, answer any questions. Oh, I totally forgot something. I totally lied. High school, you need to know this. Middle school, it may or may not affect you. It depends on your principal. High school, did anybody watch the board meeting last night? Anybody know there's a new grade scale?
I heard that we were going to get one. I didn't watch the school board meeting though.
You have a new grade scale in high school. Okay. So your highest F is a 59%. Okay. So that means if a student does their work and they fail, you need to take that grade, the point grade in Schoology, and calculate it at a 59%. Okay. You cannot give them the 52%. You have to put it in as a 59%. Now in Power Teacher Pro, if you're grading in there, you have to put in the 59% as well. So do you remember these grade cards that we used to have back in the day when you could be like, oh, my assignment's for 30 points. What are my different percentages? So Eric here has created a quick grade calculator. So let's say you have an assignment worth 25 points in Schoology. The student earned a 14%. You would put it in as a 14.75. This will help you calculate that 59%. Okay. So there's one more part to this grading. If a student is missing an assignment, didn't turn it in, it's incomplete. Remember, we would just be like 0. Now that's a 40% NS. Okay. So this means if you input a percentage, 39% or below, okay, when it syncs to Power Teacher Pro, it's automatically going to switch to a 40%. Okay. Same thing when you're inputting grades in Power Teacher Pro, if you're grading manually there. If you input a 29%, it's automatically going to convert it to a 40%. Okay. Anything else, the highest F you have, or the lowest F, I don't know which way it goes. I can never say it right. But it's a 59%, and you have to manually put in that 59%. Yes, so now you have two parts. If it's failing, it's 59%. If it's missing, incomplete, you put underneath the 39%, it goes to 40% automatically for not submitted. This is high school only. Now there are some middle schools where they do the same process where the highest F is like a 60%. It would be the same process there. You would have to manually put in that 60%. That I do not know, Sherry. I could reach out to Aaron Bernhardt and ask him what that would mean for them. But I know some of this might come out with the back to school stuff, because I was just given permission as of yesterday to share this new grade scale. So it's all that new. The problem is the system only recognizes points because it's having to connect over to Power Teacher Pro. But the suggestion was to make all your points worth 100 or all your points worth 10, because it's really easy then to get that 59%. You don't have to calculate it. So that was a suggestion someone gave us, was to just make your classes worth 10 points or 100 points, because that's quick calculation. Okay, so I did put in the exit slip to help you get into the different drawings today. So go ahead and complete that. And I leave the floor open to you for questions. This time,
Hey,
for
Rachel.
sure, I leave it open. Yeah.
Hey, Rachel, did you show us how to get to Lorber's thing? His
This,
Excel? Yeah, how do I get to that, I guess?
do you have the slide deck that I shared at the beginning?
Yeah,
It is on slide 14.
okay. So this is just like a little tool. If a kid gets a 21 out of 30, and I don't know what percentage that is.
Yeah, so instead of having to have your card, Eric made it now that you have a Google Sheet.
So Lorber does have some value. Is that what you're saying?
He does have some value.
Okay.
I'm gonna let him know you said that, and I think he's smiling across the room. I do not have a link to the new grade scale. I don't have any documentation yet. What I have is based on a conversation I had with Aaron Bernhardt, who does the Gradebook. But according to Jack Bird, it was taken to the board last night for approval. Everybody have the slide deck that has the type directions in the grade calculator. I want to make sure you have it. So when you work with your teachers. And this is linked on our integrated site. So if you're on our integrated site, it's under course setup. And the different videos we have here, which is doing your course information, content migration, section linking. There's a whole thing on gradebook configuration with a video, and then here's the slide deck as well. We are going to be working, the secondary team is going to be working with the schools to try to get out there to work with teachers because this connection with Gradebook is so huge. We completely understand how huge this is, and you can't just rely on these PLs. So yes, we are going to be, we've already reached out to the principals and we're like, we need to do PL. So, and hopefully it's in person because that's so much better than Zoom. All right. Well, it's time to switch to round 3. Hope you're having fun at Mini Ignite. Reba, thanks for letting me use your pages. I'll clean up my mess.
I didn't have a choice.
But
Thank
you're the
you.
star of the show now.
Oh, yeah. You know, I'm kind of shy, so, you
Oh,
know.
sure, Reba. You
Yeah.
shy. Uh-huh.
Sherry, I feel like you're following me.
Yes, I am. Why?
I see. It's like, where are we going next?
I'm going to Smart Start. What about you?
You're going to Smart Start? I think I don't know what I'm going to do next. I think I know everything. The most of the Schoology stuff is, hey, is that Rachel girl doing more of the Schoology stuff?
I'm taking a break next round.
Oh, maybe I will go to Schoology then. I don't know. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. I'm going to shut down the Zoom. Thanks for coming.
Yes, it was great.